I'm Shannon Ireland, your host of a Healthy Push podcast. I struggled with anxiety, panic disorder, and agoraphobia for 15 years. Everything used to be hard for me. Even just driving 5 minutes from my house used to feel impossible. But now I absolutely live for travel and adventure, and I experience lots of peace and joy. I've not only reclaimed my life, but I've helped hundreds of others to do the same. Here, we stop managing anxiety and instead we create a healthy relationship with it. One where you say goodbye to the anxious thoughts, symptoms, panic attacks, and fears, and you actually live your life. Forget complicated strategies, quick fixes, or the same old hacks you've heard 100 times before. Each week, I'll bring you simple, actionable advice and honest conversations that lead to real, long-term healing. You aren't just an anxious person, my friend. There are reasons why you're struggling with anxiety, and these are things you can fix and heal from. And this is where that journey begins. Welcome. You're right where you're meant to be. Hello, and welcome back to a Healthy Push podcast. We are here doing another Q&A episode, which I feel like we have not done one of these in a few months. And so I'm so excited to have Mary with me, and we're going to go over some of your questions. And this is going to be a fun episode. So I'm really excited about it. But Mary, first, I just want to welcome you back to the podcast. I'm so happy to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. I love just what you've been doing, Shannon, and I'm just excited to be a part of another episode of really, really great questions. This is going to be interesting.
Yeah. So I was trying to think, how do we make this a little bit different? How do we make it fun? Because I feel like obviously a lot of the episodes I do are kind of serious, right? Like they're often not like playful. So I thought it would be really cool to do an episode that's like helpful or bullshit. So, like, the theme of this episode is we're going to go through a lot of anxiety advice that's out there. And you're going to ask me whether I think it's helpful or whether it's bullshit. And let's be honest, there's so much advice out there on what to do for anxiety and panic and agoraphobia. And some of it is helpful, some of it's like neutral, and some of it honestly is just bad and can really keep you stuck. So, today in this episode, I want to just give you my honest thoughts like, no fluff, no toxic positivity, just actually what helps and what I think might be holding you back. So, we've got some really good questions, and I'm really excited about this. And these are often questions it's funny that I get from my students who are like, have taken my classes or they're going through my program and they're like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? And I'm like, okay, this would be a really fun podcast episode to do. So these questions are questions I get asked pretty often. So I'm so excited to do this.
Oh, I'm so excited too. Okay. So do you want to start?
Yeah, let's start with question one.
Ooh, let's see. Okay. Question 1. What do you think about nervous system regulation?
Okay, my students, if they're listening, they already know it's coming. I don't love the term nervous system regulation. I think that it can be really like off putting to a lot of people, as it is to me. And I think there's a good reason. I feel like nervous system regulation, especially within the past few years, is often portrayed to be like this blanket fix for anxiety, amongst other things. Like, if you just regulate your nervous system, you won't feel anxious anymore. And then unfortunately, I think a lot of people push these different things, right? They sell you on these different ideas on how to regulate your nervous system. And oftentimes, unfortunately, people are making money off of this stuff, which is even more problematic. And I won't go there. But you end up doing all these things because you get sucked down this hole of like, okay, I got to regulate my nervous system. I'm going to do XYZ. And you end up doing so much shit that it often just creates more overwhelm, more stress, more anxiety. And it's like you're trying so hard to do something that doesn't need to be forced. So to me, nervous system regulation is really just good old fashioned self care. Like, this is to put it simply. If you are really focused on intentionally doing things to support you and your mental, emotional, and physical health, that is going to help quote, regulate your nervous system. So to me, it's not like you got to put this intense focus on regulating your nervous system. However, it is really important to focus on taking steps that are going to help support you. I also think something really important to note here within nervous system regulation is that even if you're healthy, even if you're in a really good space, like with your mental health, your physical health, all the things, even if you're really good at taking care of yourself, you're going to sometimes be dysregulated, right? Like I am definitely dysregulated sometimes. The whole piece of nervous system regulation that really bugs me is I think a lot of people sort of portray it as when you're in this state, you're always calm, cool, collected, everything's good. But that's just not the case. We all sort of fall out of regulation. We go into this sort of neutral space sometimes. Sometimes we're very dysregulated. And I should say, but when you're taking care of yourself, when you're really focused on supporting yourself with a lot of the basic self care stuff, you're able to fluctuate between that dysregulated state back to a more regulated state and it be a lot easier. So I think overall, I don't think nervous system regulation is like bullshit. However, I don't think it's something that needs to be forced. I don't think there are things that you need to buy. I don't think there are specific things you need to be doing. I don't want you to get sold on any of this stuff and start trying to do a million things to support yourself. What I teach in my classes, my programs, it's basic stuff. Like we often overlook the basic stuff that's helpful and supportive. And when you focus on that, it helps to build the regulation without you really doing a bunch of craziness to get there.
I agree. I really do. I think just nervous system regulation is a really blanket term that you
Mhm.
can't really do much with. It's just too broad of a thing to say. And I feel like it's just one of those like kind of hot catchphrases right now.
Yep.
Like, of course, nervous system is important to understand in the function with the functionality of panic and how it works and everything like that. Of course, it's important to understand that. But I just think I am agreeing with you. I don't think it's a bad thing to say, but I also think it's just not really one of those things that's super helpful. It's not specific enough to really give much value.
Yes, 1,000%. 1,000%. Okay, let's see what the next one is. I'm excited.
All right, let's do it. Number 2. There's a lot of talk about using things like sour candies, cold water, devices, etc. to stimulate the vagus nerve and in turn relieve anxiety. What's your opinion on vagus nerve stimulation?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna try to rein myself in on this one too and not go off on a rant. I really don't love all the hype surrounding vagus nerve stimulation for anxiety relief. I think that this is very similar to nervous system regulation. It's just sort of become this bucket, like this thing that people are like, just do this, right? And it's going to relieve anxiety, fix all your problems, and you're going to be good. I have to say, there is validity to stimulating your vagus nerve to reduce feelings of anxiety. Like science does prove this. There's research, there's studies on it, all the things. I'm not saying that it's complete bullshit. However, I do think that if you are so focused on trying to stimulate your vagus nerve, what you're likely doing is trying to avoid feeling, which is a huge thing that I never want any of my clients and students doing. Because if you are just trying to avoid feeling, you are going to have so many more feelings, especially those really uncomfortable ones that you're probably trying to get away from. So I think it can become this vagus nerve stimulation can become a distraction that you might use. It can become a coping strategy. And unfortunately, it can really become a safety behavior. And this is what I often see in people who come to me. They're like doing a lot of this stuff, right? They're either sucking on Sour Patch Kids, they're carrying a really cold water bottle with them wherever they go, or an ice pack, or they're tapping, or they're using certain devices to help stimulate their vagus nerve. And they're really attached to these things And it just creates like another layer, another association that when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling really overwhelmed, you need something in order to get rid of the feelings. Like you need a savior. And I always say that can be really tricky because if you're constantly convincing yourself you need something and the feelings are too big, they're too bad, they're too scary, your body is going to keep reacting to anxiety like it's really something it needs to fight, like it's really something that's dangerous, and you don't want that. So, in my opinion, I don't want to say it's bullshit because there is validity to it, like I said, but I don't love vagus nerve stimulation like at all.
Yeah, I agree. Like I do think it starts to create one of those like backpacks of things I need to carry in order to get through this.
Yeah.
And I feel like those types of situations can make you really like overly reliant on objects outside of yourself, to
Mhm.
feel okay. And I think that that can be really not a great thing when it comes to, like, figuring out the root of why you're anxious to begin with, or even just, like, coming face to face with feelings and doing the healthy work that needs to get done. Not that it's unhealthy to rely on things as you first start out to getting better, but I
For
think it
sure.
can, like, give you some crutches that are, like, really hard to let go of. But I will say, like, when I was going through therapy, like, they used to always say, put a rubber band around your wrist and
Oh,
snap it when you're having a anxious.
yeah.
I'm sure you remember
Mhm.
this, but, it does work because the pain kinda distracts your mind from the anxiety, but it's also, like, kind of destructive, and not that the sour candies are destructive or the water, but I feel like it's in the same time, it's just kinda keeping you from, facing what's going on and just sitting with yourself and finding the healthy habits that you need to build in order to maintain, like, a long-lasting anxiety, like, relief permanently, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned the rubber band because I know people are gonna be able to relate to that and have probably gotten, like, some, advice around doing stuff like that, and I don't remember, of course, back when I was struggling, it was so long ago that I feel like vagus nerve stimulation wasn't a thing, but you instinctively sort of do some of this when you're struggling to just get away from the feelings, and I remember pinching myself, hitting myself, like, doing things to try to snap myself out of it, and like you said, it does work in quotes, but
Mhm.
it's this very temporary relief that you're like, "Okay, and now I feel anxious again, and so here I'm gonna go off on, like, pinching and hitting myself again." It's like, "Okay, this is
So
not realistic, like, I can't keep doing this to myself."
totally, I totally and what are you gonna buy stock in sour candies,
Yeah, yeah,
Like, you're gonna be using them
exactly,
forever.
exactly, and I
Yeah.
totally it's so hard for me because, especially on social media, you see a lot of this really, honestly, I'll say it, bad advice go viral, and telling people just get sour candies or even dump cold water on yourself. And I'm like, what? Like, this is not. This is not long term healing, right? This is not what healing looks like. And so I just really caution anyone when you come across content like this, if it's pushing some sort of quick fix, some short term relief, like there should be some red flags going off, right? And you've got to listen to that.
Alright. You ready? Next
Yes.
question. What about supplements like magnesium, ashwagandha, L-theanine? Are these helpful or overhyped?
Oh, okay. So this might be surprising to some people. In my opinion, I think that things like this can be supportive. I don't think that they're absolute bullshit. I really do think that they can be helpful and they can be supportive. Definitely, people at times, right, will get lab work done. They'll see that they have some deficiencies. I am never one to say, like, don't support your health, right? Don't support your body because obviously, if you're supporting your body, it's going to in turn help support your mind. So, if you have deficiencies, or even if you're like, hey, I want to try this, maybe some magnesium will help me. I don't think that there's any harm in this. However, obviously, I will say these things aren't going to be fixes. So if you're like, I'm just going to start taking this in hopes that it gets rid of the anxiety, well, that's not going to happen. So we really can't have this like reliance or that desperative, I've got to find a fix, I've got to find a solution and sort of become dependent on these things and then not do the work that's actually needed. I will always say things like this can be supportive, but they won't help fix your relationship with anxiety. Like, that's work that you really have to do, and that's not work that any supplement or thing outside of yourself can really do.
I agree. I also really do find a lot of relief from the magnesium and L-theanine specifically.
Yeah.
Especially, like, when if you've had too much coffee, which a lot of people with anxiety have trouble drinking coffee, and I still love to drink coffee, but, like, if I have a little bit too much and I start to kinda feel a like a panicky feeling, if I take a gummy with L-theanine, it does cancel out
Interesting.
the anxious feelings. Yeah, it works really fast too, and I'm not saying I rely on them, but in some circumstances, I do think but they can't be like the be all end all, like you said, you know? Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I know people are probably going to be wondering this. I myself, I did not take anything when I was recovering. I didn't take supplements. I just don't think maybe it was recommended. I don't know. Maybe I tried some stuff. I don't remember going down that road. But I think now things are just different, right? There is more recommendations out there. There's just better testing. There's better science. And so if you find something to be helpful and supportive, fine. That's totally fine, right? But just know you still got to do the work.
Yeah, like, I feel like anxiety or panic attacks are sort of like a really big mountain to conquer, and I don't think any of those things that we just talked about, magnesium, ashwagandha, L-theanine, I don't think those really it's too high of a hill. Like, I think it might help after you kinda get to a good place. You might wanna, like, add a little bit in to relax, but, when you're dealing with it and it's really hard and intense and you've got, agoraphobia or you're dealing with that, those types of things don't really fix that, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
agreed.
Agreed. Okay, let's go on to number 4.
Number 4, that was what we were just talking about with the coffee. Okay, well, kind of. Okay, number 4, does reducing caffeine really make a difference with panic disorder?
Okay, that's so funny because you were just saying this.
I know.
So I will say for some people, well, actually, I'll change that. I'll say for most people, absolutely. If you're somebody who is experiencing a lot of sensation symptoms, a lot of panic, it likely will be incredibly helpful to reduce the amount of caffeine that you're taking in. Obviously, caffeine itself is a stimulant, so it is going to cause you to feel some things. So, caffeine, I think this is important to note. Caffeine itself doesn't cause anxiety. It really is just that stimulant that can mimic sensations and symptoms of anxiety. So you might feel that jitteriness, you might feel that rush of adrenaline, you might feel maybe even a bit shaky. I know I'm super sensitive to caffeine. Like if I get my order messed up, I remember one time I ordered a chai, which is like my go to. And I think that they made it a dirty chai, which I had no idea even existed. And my boyfriend Patrick was like, "That is going to have a lot of caffeine in it." And I was like, "What?" I could feel it like almost immediately. Like my heart was racing, I felt sweaty, I felt shaky, like a lot of things in it. These symptoms, these sensations were really happening. It's just because my body is super sensitive to caffeine and I don't really drink it. So it's not that the caffeine itself causes anxiety. It just can cause some of those sensations and symptoms that feel really familiar to anxiety and feel really uncomfortable. So, if you're experiencing a lot of anxiety, a lot of symptoms, and your body's just really sensitive in general, which is a lot of people who struggle with anxiety disorders, it can be really helpful to pull back on how much caffeine you're consuming. Personally for me, back when I was struggling, I was experiencing so much panic, like multiple panic attacks a day. And I was like, okay, like I got to do away with this. Like I was the person that was in my car on the way to work, didn't eat breakfast, would just stop, get a coffee, and honestly chain smoke cigarettes, which is like, what the hell are you doing while you're experiencing so much anxiety and panic? So for me, removing it from my diet helped a ton. And literally, I removed it altogether because I was like, I'm not even going that route of like decaf. And I was just like, I need to see if this helps. And it really did help me. But it took me probably, I don't know, several years. And then I started drinking decaf again. And then I was like, okay, maybe I can drink caffeine. and be okay. And I notice still, like, I my body is very sensitive to caffeine, so I have it, but it's not on a regular basis, it's not on a consistent basis, and that's just more of a preference for me, like, I don't love how it makes me feel, so I think in general, if you are somebody who's like experiencing a lot of anxiety and you're drinking caffeine, you might think it's not really making a difference. It's not what's making me feel anxious. You probably just don't know the difference between drinking it and not having it in your system because you will notice a difference when you reduce the amount or eliminate the caffeine.
Yeah, there's a lot of caffeine in some of like the especially like coffees like Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks and stuff. And they have websites that you can visit where they'll tell you how much is caffeine is in like a medium, like regular, like iced coffee, just the regular blend that they have is like 300 milligrams of caffeine. And you
Wow.
really, yeah, and an actual human body shouldn't be ingesting more than 400 milligrams a day. So if you have that, and then that's a medium just a regular iced coffee with a regular blend, and then you have, like, sodas throughout the day, it adds up, and I don't think sometimes I think about that because when I was going through panic attacks and stuff, like, I caffeine came up, a lot, and after I did some research, I was really shocked to see how much people are allowed to put in coffee because apparently Dunkin' Donuts specifically, they have sort of like this ramped up type of caffeine that they put in their drinks that I don't really think shouldn't even be legal because if you go anywhere outside the US, like if you're in Europe, like they have like less caffeine in their coffees there. It's like just a little bit. So if
Yeah.
you're curious and you want to go and do some research, I suggest like if you're really married to caffeine, that you do a little research and just see how much is in the drinks that you like and then decide like maybe I'll have half and then put the rest in the fridge because a lot of people do have trouble getting rid of caffeine, from their
Oh, yeah.
life.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh, I remember suffering through some really intense headaches and like
Yes.
thinking, oh my God, I can't do this. But I mean, I found alternatives. I was a big like tea drinker, caffeine free tea, and they have chais, like really good flavors. But I think I always tell people it's not forever, right? Like having to reduce the amount that you're drinking or eliminating it can be just for now and can be
Right.
helpful for now, but it doesn't mean that you're never gonna be able to drink it or not go back to it in some way.
All right, let's go on to the next one.
Okay.
Number 5. What are your thoughts on journaling to help relieve anxiety?
Okay. I like this question, and this is probably gonna come as a surprise to some. I think journaling can be really helpful. I think that the question, the way it's phrased, I'm a little bit like, let's talk about that. So I think journaling itself, a good journaling practice, good journaling prompts can really be helpful to support yourself mentally. I don't know in relation to really relieving anxiety. Like, yes, I'm sure in turn it can do that. But I think really focusing on just in general your wellness, so, like your well-being with a journaling practice can be really helpful. So I think there has to be intention behind the journaling. So I hear a lot of bad advice out there of like, just write down your anxious thoughts. And I'm like, what are you supposed to do with that? Like, why are you just dumping down all of your anxious thoughts and feelings? I love intention behind the journaling. So if there are some good journal prompts, we do this in my Healthy Push coaching and community. If I ever am giving any journaling, like, assignments, I don't know, I hate to call them assignments, but if I'm ever, like, giving the advice on, "You could journal about this," I'm giving prompts. It's not just like, "Go journal," right? Like, there has to be some intention and some specificity with what you're journaling, because I think if you're just sitting down and journaling your anxious thoughts and feelings, you're likely going to go to some dark places. I know I did this back when I was struggling, and I would sort of sit there and then read it, reread it, analyze, be like, I am so fucked. I'm so bad. Like, I'm never going to get better. And that can just be really unhelpful. I also remember, with no bad intention of anyone, but getting the advice of like, journal your thoughts and then work to change them, kind of from bad thoughts to good thoughts, which is like a really unhelpful practice. So I think that there can be some really helpful good ways to do journaling, and like I said, there just has to be some intention with it, and I think there can be some really unhelpful ways of journaling. So, if you're somebody who wants to journal, I really recommend, like, looking at some journal prompts. What are some things that can help you sort of journal with intention? I don't think it's unhelpful to sometimes sit down and just, like, write down your thoughts in your current stream of consciousness, but can we do that and then maybe just throw it away? Can we not sit there and, like, reread it and analyze and pick it apart and, like, try to figure it out? They're just thoughts, right? And we just need to allow ourselves to have that experience of, like, having the thoughts and having the feelings and not trying to do anything with them. So, I think that can be a helpful practice too of, like, you can just write down your thoughts and feelings, but then let's throw it in the garbage because what are we gonna do with this, right? Like, let's not pick it apart. So, I think journaling with intention, helpful. Journaling with no intention or journaling to try to fix your thoughts or feelings, not helpful. Such bullshit is not a good path to go down.
Yeah, I for me, like, lists were my thing, like, not so much journaling, but writing lists, because I feel like for me, it was nighttime anxiety where when I was going to bed, all the different things that were on my mind would just kinda race through the and I would think, "Oh, I'm worried about this and then this," so if I wrote
Yeah.
it down, made a list, I knew that when I woke up in the morning, I didn't have to remember while I was laying there because I could just look at my list, pick up the worried thoughts when I woke up if I wanted to. And I think for me that really made a big difference. And I still do that to this day. Like I'll just write a little list for myself. It doesn't have to be like emotional. It just can be like, you know, got to pay this bill, got to do this, got to, or just like my daughter's dealing with this, or, she's got this health or whatever, like doctor's appointment or whatever, just things that I just didn't want to forget. And I think that really does help sometimes when you can put things like on paper and see like, maybe it isn't so big. Maybe my mind is making it a little bigger than, it's actually a really short list. So a lot of the
Yeah.
times. So
Yeah, for sure. There's intention behind it, and I like
exactly.
that. Yeah, I like that you said that because 'cause I'm just thinking of myself last night as I'm going to bed, and I had, like I always get the ideas for creative things when my brain starts to slow down, right? And so my brain has all these thoughts, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." So I get my phone out, and I get my notes app open, and I just, like it doesn't even make any sense, but at least I can get it out. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I think as long as there's some intention there, but it's not journaling to, like, fix things or to, like, make yourself feel better or to, like I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yeah,
there's gotta be intention, and that's when it's usually the most helpful.
I agree 100%. All right, ready? Number 6. Can having a good morning routine, exercise routine, diet, etc. really help?
Okay. Simply put, yes. But, a big but here, it's not creating like a perfect routine. So I often see and hear all the things on like, if you're experiencing anxiety, do this routine in the morning or do this routine at night. And it can often convince you there's like this perfect way of doing things. And if you do XYZ, then you're going to feel better and you're not going to feel anxious. I think that creating routines, creating structure can be incredibly helpful for your brain because our brains love that stuff. Like they love routine, they love familiarity, they love for things to be the same. So consistency is good for our brains, but it's not, I got to do XYZ and I got to do it perfectly and I have to stick to it and I can never deviate from it. Like there's got to be some flexibility in there. But yes, I'm such a big believer. Actions that support your body will always help to support your mind. Our minds and our bodies are so intimately connected. And so when you're really focused on taking better care of your body, like by moving your body, by paying attention to what you're putting in your body and really nourishing your body, when you're paying attention to like your sleep, right? And prioritizing your sleep, that stuff is going to go a long way in supporting your mind and really give you that capacity that you need to face the everyday stuff and to push yourself to do the harder stuff that you need to do. So, yeah, I think this is not bullshit, but the stuff that is bullshit. That's like, do this, right? Do the wake up, meditate, do the red light, then do this, and then like that is just utter nonsense. And it's probably trying to sell you on a bunch of shit that you don't need. So please don't go down that path.
Yeah, I love that, like, just regular old stuff, like, get up, make your bed in the morning, that's a nice one, just, like, kinda simple stuff, like,
Yeah.
I think also eating at the same time kind of ish every day is really good,
Yep.
and, going we all know that going to bed at the same time, waking up in the morning is amazing for the body too, but I agree with
Yeah.
you 100%, like, the whole, like, wake up at 5 a.m. and do a bunch of yoga poses while the sun rises, you're like, "That's not
Yeah.
that's not reasonable."
No, and I always tell my clients and students too, if it's not something that you actually enjoy doing, don't do it because your intention behind it matters. So if you're only doing yoga or you're only meditating to hopefully get rid of the anxiety, to relieve anxiety, to make you less anxious, it's going to suck and it's not actually going to do what you want it to do. So like you just said for me, I am never in any world waking up at 5 a.m. and having this crazy routine. Like absolutely not. I love sleep, I cherish it. I'm not a morning person. So I'm not forcing myself to do anything in an effort to feel better because it's like you're not going to feel good if you're not listening to yourself. If you're not listening to your needs, your body's needs, your mind's needs, and if you're just going against what's good and helpful for you, it's you're not going to feel good. So it's like no nothing that's good for you, like wellness, like improving your physical health, your mental health is supposed to feel bad or supposed to feel like this insane chore. Like there is nothing that I can think of in my life that I'm like, I have to do this. And if I don't do this, I'm not going to feel good. And like, I don't even like it, but I have to do it. Like, no, like I don't do anything like that, period. No, thank you.
Yeah, I agree totally, but I do love like, you were talking a couple episodes ago about, like, walking outside in nature, and, like, that's something you do have to make time for, and sometimes though, kind of maybe, like, trying it, like, making yourself just try it once, even if just to see if you like it, is kinda good too, like, even if it's, like, it's not really in my character to, do that or go or do yoga in the morning, but maybe, like, try it one time and maybe you like it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm so glad you said that because yes, you can't say I don't like that and I don't enjoy it if you've not really given it a shot. And two, when you're struggling with anxiety, there's a lot that you can feel like that you don't like or that you don't enjoy, and that's I know part of the suckiness of like being in it and struggling. So you really got to also have that like self accountability of I don't really want to do this, right? Like I haven't been feeling good but I know that this is generally good for me, and I know I generally feel better once I do it, so, like, I gotta push a little bit, and yeah, of course, I have days like that where I'm like, I don't feel like doing the things that I normally enjoy doing, and I have to sort of push myself to be like, "Alright, like, no, Shannon, we're doing it." So, yeah, I think that's helpful.
Totally. Okay, ready for the last one?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay. I know, I can't believe we're at the end. Okay. Is exposure work really the way through panic disorder and agoraphobia?
Okay, this is such a loaded question, and I'm gonna try to keep myself reined in. I will say yes and no. I think the big disclaimer here that I want to put on is there's so much to recovery than just exposure work. Like when we get into my panic to peace program, we don't even talk about exposure work until week 5. Usually it ends up being week 6 or 7 because I like just am long-winded and take my time going through the program. But we don't get into exposure work until we're week 5, 6, 7 in because there's so much that has to come before that in order to support yourself. If you were just trying to force and do exposure work because you've been sold this idea, right? Like you just got to push and you just got to face fear and you just got to get in the car and you got to make yourself do the things. If you're just doing it with that intention, ugh, you are going to experience so much anxiety, so much panic, so much fear. So yes, exposure work, I think, for everyone in some way, shape, or form has to be a part of the journey. Now, it does look differently for everyone. Like, I have students of mine that are very, like, have to be very intentional with exposure work. Like, we create goals and we create steps, and like, we are pushing to do those things. There are students that are kind of in the middle of like, I gotta have some of that, right? Of like pushing, I have the goals and I have the steps because it helps to keep them on track and like keep them focused. And then I have students who are like, I'm kind of just doing all the things already. Like I'm out, I'm driving to work, I'm going to like school, I'm going out with friends. I'm sort of like my exposure work is living. And so their focus is more on allowing themselves to feel the anxiety, to bring it with them, to actually try not to like push it away and like all the things that they've probably gotten really used to doing. And that I will say is the crux of exposure work. This is the part that a lot of people miss. The intention of exposure work is to allow yourself to feel, allow yourself to be with the anxiety, to make space for it, to create that healthy relationship with it. So it can look differently for from person to person, but the general idea behind exposure work is you're building your tolerance for feeling. You're actually allowing yourself to bring anxiety with you and to feel it. And that's why I say it's a part of it for everyone. It's a part of everyone's journey because that is what the work that we're doing. So yeah, it's it's like a yes and no because it's not all of it for me. Like exposure work isn't the way through. Like there's no one way through. There's so many different things that are helpful and are a part of each person's journey. And it is never just exposure work. Like I've never had a student come on my podcast and share their success story. And it was just, I just did exposures. Like I just got in the car and it fixed me. Like there's so many different elements that really helped that person to get to where they are. And that is usually like the pieces like self compassion, acceptance, really learning how to support themselves, learning how to take care of themselves better in their relationships, just so many different things. So, no, exposure work is not the only way through, but it is a part of it, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's like that last journey, like, when you're like, "Okay, I built all these things up now, and I'm gonna go test them out in the real world. I'm gonna see if I can do that scary thing that I couldn't do before." And I honestly can't remember too well, like, how long I did exposures for when it was, like, my final kinda thing when I was going through it. But I think exposures are interesting because sometimes I feel like you'll have really hard time doing this one thing, and then one day it just is not there anymore. And it's like, "Oh my god, what does that mean?" Like, does that just mean that it's over? Or I just feel like it is a nice way to test things, but I don't know if it's, like, the true 100% mark of, like, "Okay, I'm over it," or "I'm done," or this journey's over." And I don't know, it is an interesting, exposures are interesting, it's a mixed bag every time, I think.
Yeah, it's a learning opportunity. It's an opportunity to be curious and compassionate and kind with yourself and really learn how to better support yourself. Like I love exposure work, but I guess I'll say this. I never like to sound like I know everything but I've taught my program enough times and have had so many people successfully recover that I can say this confidently that there is sort of a quote right way to do things, and it's often not what people hear. It's often not what's on social media. I never have my students like just going at anxiety, like you just got to face the fear, you just got to force, you just got to push. Like there is a better, healthier way to do it. And when you approach exposure work with that kindness, compassion, that curiosity, it just changes so much and makes things so much less hard. And I think that's what I've learned over teaching so many students and obviously going through it myself of like there is a healthy way to do it and there's a really unhealthy way to do it. And unfortunately, a lot of people have been taught not so healthy ways to do exposure work, which is why they come to me and they're like, I've tried everything, right? It didn't work. It was so unhelpful. It actually made things worse. And we dig in and I'm like, well, yeah, obviously it made things worse because you were going about it in this way. And like that is nothing that I will teach you to do. So yeah, I am definitely an advocate of exposure work, but again, I have to say it's not the way, right? There's no one way to recovery.
Right, exactly.
Oh, these were so good. Like, these questions were so freaking good. And I'm so excited for this last bit. So, we're actually going to do a rapid fire segment, which you're going to ask me whether this thing, like, you're going to list off a bunch of different things, but I'm going to tell you whether I think it's helpful or BS. And I'm going to try to stick to just one sentence, which I know is going to be really hard for me. But I hear these rapid fires like on different podcasts. And I'm like, oh, I love that. That's so fun. So I was like, we've got to find a way to do this. So I'm excited about this.
I love it. So welcome to Helpful or BS with Shannon. No, I'm just joking. Okay. All right. So are you ready? I'm going to give you some words and you're going to say whether or not you think they're helpful or BS.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. 1. Meditation.
Helpful if you're using it to teach your brain how to be more present, not using it with the intention of making anxiety go away.
Okay. Box breathing.
Oh, helpful for some, not helpful for others. I tend to steer away from teaching things like this, especially in anxious moments.
Okay. Meditation apps.
Helpful
Tapping.
can be helpful if you're using it to be more present, maybe like with somatic work, but again, not with the intention of making anxiety go away.
Okay. CBD.
Oh gosh. I've never personally used it, so I feel like my opinion on this is not take it with a grain of salt. I think it can be supportive, but you gotta do the work.
Lavender oil.
Ah, God, I wanna say bullshit. Like, maybe a little calming, sure, but what?
Okay. EMDR.
Ooh, helpful. Absolutely love it as a modality, a form of therapy. So good. I've done it myself, love it, and I know clients who have really had good experiences.
Okay. Supplements.
Helpful.
Progressive muscle relaxation.
Again, helpful if you're using it to teach your brain how to be more present, not to get rid of anxiety.
Affirmations.
Helpful. I love affirmations. I'm such a fan.
Okay. Ice packs and ice water.
Bullshit. I'll say nothing more.
Red light therapy.
Uh, for anxiety, this is like I'm saying this with a question mark. I will say bullshit.
Somatic work.
Helpful. I like somatic work can definitely help you to get in your body if you're a thinker and overanalyzer like me.
Daily gratitude lists.
Oh, helpful. Love gratitude.
Oh, and our favorite, exposure therapy.
Helpful if done in a supportive, kind way.
I love it, Shannon. These are great answers.
Oh, this was so good, Mary. I'm like, this gives me energy to come up with more ideas of like fun podcast episodes that we can do and just to help make things a bit lighter because I know this stuff is like heavy and it's really hard to struggle with this stuff. So I think this has been really good.
I think it was good too. And I haven't seen any other people doing like anxiety, panic disorder related rapid fires. So you are the first one that I've seen. So I love it.
They're a thing. We're going to do more of them.
Perfect.
Well, thank you, Mary, for coming on, and we will do another Q&A much sooner than the ones that we've done recently.
I look forward to it.
I hope you loved this episode of A Healthy Push. If you have, I'd be so grateful if you could leave me a rating and review wherever you're listening to this podcast. This helps people to find the show and get the support they need. And if you know someone who could use a little push, be sure to share this episode with them. And for even more support, head over to ahealthypush.com for show notes and loads of tips, tools, and inspiration to help you on your recovery journey. I'll see you next week.